I'm Tracy.
And I'm Dane Mormon.
We're with Legacy Woodworking Machinery, and today is our first class of our online woodworking school, and we're building a mantel clock. So what are we going to do today, Dane?
Well, we already cut our boards to width and length. We're gonna start out by just making the case, and we're going to show you how to do some trick joinery on using the Legacy.
All right. Well, then why don't we turn this around and we'll take a close-up look so everybody can see exactly what's going on.
As you can see here, we have a horizontal vices on the top side of our bed rails, and you can also see that we marked our board so we can make our cuts, and we'll just cut to the line. First, I laid out all of the cuts on each component. Then I simply set my depth and stops for each cut. This cut on the base is the same on the other two components, so I made one setup and cut all of the boards. This is the base piece for the mantel clock. What I'm going to do here is just route around the edges here. Okay, what I'm going to do here is go down until it touches the top of the wood. Then I'm going to zero it out. Then I'm going to go down a ½ inch, 0.5. Then I'm going to lock my stops. Now we'll go ahead and route around the edges.
All right, I'm still Tracy.
And I'm still Dane.
And we're about to wrap up this class now. Of course, we've made all the components, and we used the Legacy to do all of this trick joinery. Hi, I'm Tracy.
And I'm Dane. Today in this class we're going to be showing you the different types of molding on the mantel clock.
Now last time we used the overhead
Mantel clock.
Now last time we used the overhead
Mantel clock.
Now last time we used the overhead
In the Legacy to clamp our stock in.
But we're going to do something a little bit different this time. This week we've put a piece of MDF, 3/4 inch MDF in here. We're going to use it as a tabletop. 4 inch MDF in here. We're going to use it as a tabletop.
Right on zero. And we put the edge of the board right on the line.
Yeah, that way we can use the Y-axis tape here to position for each cut as we're making the molding. And of course, that's held on with double-sided tape.
Now let's go ahead and turn this around and we'll show you our first cut. If you're using the optional Z-axis, what you'll do is touch the router bit on top of the table surface, zero it out, and then drive it up 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch, and then set your stop. If you're using the standard plunge router, the easiest way is to use a spacer that is 3/4 of an inch thick, like this piece of MDF. Slide it underneath your router bit, plunge it to the top of the surface. The router bit 1 1/8 inch off the back side, plunge down 1/8 of an inch per pass. With this router bit, I came off 1 7/8 inches from the back side and off the table surface 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. Now that we're all aligned, we're going to start cutting with our other template. When the stylus is in the outside track, you want to use the core box bit. Raise it 3/4 of an inch from the table. When you're in the inside track, you want to use the shallow classic. Raise it 1/8 of an inch from the table. As you can see here, I have a lot of material to remove. So what I did was took the stylus out of the outside track, put it in the inside track. With using the same router bit, I'm just going to waste this material. I've changed my router bit to the shallow classic, raised it 1/8 of an inch off the table surface. Set your stop. I changed my template. I set my 1/2 inch straight cutter to the table surface, and we'll cut the inside track first. Now with the stylus in the outside track of the template, we're going to cut 1/4 of an inch per pass.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Dane, and today we're going to be showing you the face frame on the mantel clock.
Now there's a lot of ways to make these parts. You could use a bandsaw, or you could use the ornamental mill with a template, but we're going to use the overhead router with the new pin router attachment.
Yeah, and that makes for extremely easy setups and perfect cut every time.
Well, if it's that easy to set up, why don't you show us how it's done?
Okay. What I did was I mounted my template with double-sided tape to my workpiece.
Oh, that's easy enough.
And then adjust piece.
Oh, that's easy enough.
And then a template, so my router bit will cut all the way through the wood, but not into the template.
Now you wouldn't want one pass.
And that makes for another advantage for our overhead router system, is we can control our depth. In this particular cut, 1/4 of an inch per pass.
Let's do it. Of course, don't forget your safety glasses. Wow, Dane, just like you said, simple but a perfect cut.
For the face frame, we're going to use loose tenons. In this particular board, we put it in the vertical vise to cut our mortises. Now for these boards, we'll use the horizontal vise. We've got our mortises marked. We've marked the face of each board so we know which side we're working off of. Bring your bit in till it touches the face, then move it in 1/2 inch. We'll plunge down 1/4 of an inch deep. Come on, baby. Work with me. Now we're about finished with the door.
All right, let's spin that around, look at the back side here. Now what we've done is we've taken the stiles and we mounted them with 3 brass screws, and we also mounted the base rail right here. And then we took the piece of glass, and you can see that it's chamfered here on the top corner. And we slid that in, and now we'll simply take this piece, the top rail, and it'll slide in right here, and then we'll mount it with some screws. Right here, and then we'll mount it with some screws. All right. We just now need to mount the hinges and put this thing on the clock.
Now in the next class we're going to be doing some hardware and some final assembly, and that should wrap up this project.
All right, let's do it. Well, he's Dane.
And he's Tracy.
Today we're going to work a little bit more on the door. One problem that we found when we went to glue this up was as we put the pressure from the clamps, the parts would bow. So what we ended up doing is we put a little wax paper down, and we clamped it right down to this board, and that would hold it flat as the glue is drying. So what are we going to do today, Dane?
Today we're going to be finishing up the door, making all of our components for the back side, and then we're going to slide in our glass.
All right, well, let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Why did I do that?
I don't know. Now the stiles and rails are cut to size. This particular cut is an 1/8 inch deep and a 1/2 inch wide for the glass. Now we're going to be cutting the ends of the rails. We want this cut to be the same width as this, so we'll just flip it over and scribe a line. Now with the plunge depth at the same depth, go ahead and flip your part around and repeat the process. Now our rail will overlap our stile, and our glass should fit right in here. Now we're going to use the template to cut out the pattern. Now we're going to mount the face frame to the mantel clock. Start off by running a bead of glue around the frame. Now center the face frame on the mantel clock and then nail it in place. Now we'll let that dry, and then we'll clean up the glue. Now for the swan neck molding, we're going to cut a 45-degree angle on the end. Make sure the flat section of the molding is flat on the table. We clamped it to our fence, and make sure you cut right to the corner. Now I have my 45 cut. I want my swan neck molding to match this contour of my face frame. So what I'll do is just mark it on the back side with a pencil. Now with my line marked, I'll leave about an 1/8 inch and come back and do some final sanding. I ran me a bead of glue in there. I've got a clamp holding it in place while I do some final alignment. Okay, that looks good. Now we'll just stand it up here. I'll shoot a couple nails in there while the glue dries. Okay, I ran me a bead of glue. Now just align and go ahead and shoot it in place. Now that our base piece is 3/4 of an inch, now we'll just do some edge treatment. 1/4 of an inch, now we'll just do some edge treatment. Board. I'm using a 3/4 inch core box bit. Now we'll just round over the bottom edges. We'll glue these corner pieces in to attach the base piece. We're going to drill 2 holes, and we're going to countersink them to mount them to the clock. And screw it on. Now we'll just sand the inside and the outside edges.
Okay.
By now you should know who we are. My name's Dane, this is Tracy.
All right, now we're just about wrapping up this final class on the mantle clock. Installed the door here with the hinges. We put a nice little magnetic catch to hold that down. Now we mounted the clock kit in here according to the instructions, and all we need now left is to hang the pendulum.
And I've got the back painted black to give us a nice contrast. And to finish everything up, I got the flame finial, and there may be some light sanding, and we're going to leave that up to Tracy.
Thanks, Dane.